a little bit late this week. You can blame me. Um, yeah, it's my
Yeah.
fault.
So Kathy.
So we are still in Satanic Panic land because apparently in the 70s, 90s, and or sorry, 70s, 80s, and early 90s,
You see
70s, 80s, and early 90s,
70s, 90s, and 80s.
it's all a blur. It's all a blur. I don't know what decade it was
The
or what
1900s.
what order they come in. Um, Satanic Panic just never ended. It just kept going and going. So tonight we're going to continue on this path of everything is evil. And Vin, did
Yes.
you know that the height of all evil was daycare centers?
I'm not surprised. They just always seem satanic. They're full of those little minions.
That's true. That's true. Um, so today we're going to talk about the McMartin. I don't even know the McMartin daycare
Fiasco.
fiasco. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, we will go into a little bit of the trial, but yeah. So in 1983, a woman, Judy,
I have no idea. We'll just change the names to protect the innocent.
there you go. There was a mother who had her child at the McMartin daycare, which was considered an excellent daycare in, I believe it was Miami Beach.
And they even had like a list of people waiting to get their kid in there. I mean, they had like, this was like elite. This is the place you wanted to send your kid. So it
Yes.
was a really good one from what the whole community thought.
So she has her son at this elite daycare that everybody's waiting to go to, has a stellar reputation. The grandmother who started it, I believe she was the one who won Woman of the Year in the town because of her work with the daycare. Anyway, and that was like in the late 70s, so it wasn't that many years before this whole fiasco. So Judy, can't remember her last name, drops off her son. Is her son registered at the preschool? No. Nope. Just
He
drops
wasn't?
him off. Just
I
drops
didn't
him
know
off.
that.
So this is the start of this. So they find this kid on the sidewalk who and they bring him into the daycare and they actually work with her to register him in the daycare that is difficult to get into, but they work with her because she's a single mom and they're trying to help. Okay, jump ahead. So the son has been in the daycare in this unorthodox way of registering your child in school. And this isn't funny, it's horror, it's horrific, and we're not making light of child abuse in any way,
Mm.
shape, or form. But she decides that the son has been abused by the only male teacher, which is the son of the mother and grandmother who both also work at the daycare. Pay
Wait, you're saying grandmother? That was his mom.
Right, but there was also the grandmother. The grandmother started it. They arrested a
Oh, okay.
76-year-old woman in this.
Oh, well, I know there was an older lady, and then there was her grown daughter and her grown son, but I didn't know about a grandmother.
The grandmother's there too, I believe.
Okay.
And so Judy just goes to the police and says that her son has been assaulted in this daycare um, by Ray Bucky. So that is the son. So this is a horrible thing if this is true. And the police are taking it very seriously.
As they should, right? I mean, it's a pretty serious accusation.
Very, very serious. But how do they handle it? Not well. Not well at all.
Tell us, Kathy.
They decide to send out a letter to all the parents saying that this one child has made the accusation of assault and to question your children. But not only did they send them to all the children's parents who were there, they sent them to past children. people who had previously attended the daycare. So they just sent out all these letters saying, talk, don't flip out, but talk to your children and see if they have any,
Any
not
memories of
accurate,
being
yeah,
abused?
like any memories of, yeah, exactly, of being
Don't freak out, but your child may have been abused for years. It's okay. Just
right.
check.
And also, this is my favorite part. And keep all of this confidential. Don't talk to each other.
Don't compare notes.
No, what parents are not going to immediately be contacting every other parent they know to say, has your child said anything? What's going on? So while it's great they took this mother and the boy, if the boy made these allegations, which as we get further in, we don't even know if this is true. Um, in fact, it's highly likely it wasn't ever true. But it's great that the police took them seriously, but then they sort of just passed off their job to the parents, like interrogate your children, ask your children questions. So things go horribly awry very quickly.
Obviously. Plus, I mean, if you have a doubt, parents are going to start looking at their kid, and every little thing that child does that an adult might look at as possibly sexual would be totally innocent to just a regular child, but they're going to see things that aren't really there and try to put two and two together because they're so scared, they're so worried, they're so paranoid that something's happened to
Mhm.
their kid, and then they're just going to start, why are you doing that? Where did you learn that? Who taught you that? And put ideas in their head. And it's just gonna, well, it does just go off the rails.
It completely goes off the rails. Like so far off the rails that you can't even imagine that any of this could be taken seriously at a certain point. But it is. So we will start getting into now the parents are talking to their children, and children are trying to please their parents. They're going to give them, if you're being pressed, did this guy, did this teacher at school touch you here? And they seem to want a certain answer. The child is going to give them that answer, even if they don't understand what they're doing
Yep.
or saying.
They're going to want to please the parent. That's what usually that's what kids want to do.
And not that parents wanted their children, obviously, to have been assaulted, but they wanted what they considered the truth. So they were really pressing these children. And a lot of the children were denying anything ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
They were also asking really vague questions like, did Mr. Bucky watch you in whatever, watch you in on the playground?
Take
Okay.
pictures. Of course, they're
Right.
taking pictures.
Right. Like these are pretty vague questions. Of course, kids are going to be like, yeah, he watched me. He always was watching me. That's what they're there for. So this is sort of how it starts. And then it just spirals into kind of crazy land. Um, Not even kind of crazy land, absolutely crazy land. And we'll get into well, if you can remember from what your research, what were some of the things that the children said happened to them at this school?
Well, one of the things they were trying to say was that there was some kind of game that they were playing. It was like Naked Movie Star, I think they were calling it, or something like that.
Yep,
And there were, I don't know if the parents had hired like psychiatrists or something to talk to them, or if that was when the police finally got more involved. But they would ask these kids leading questions, and they would use a puppet so that the kid could talk through the puppet because they thought maybe the kid didn't want to admit the truth. But I was reading some of the transcripts and it was terrible. I mean, they were saying, tell us about the Naked Movie Star game. We know you love that. And the kid is like, I've never played that. And they're like, well, we know you did because another kid told us you did. And he's like, maybe, I'm not sure. And they just kept pressing them like,
and they would
well,
actually be insulting. They
oh
would
yeah,
actually
they
say
were
things
telling them
like,
that
I
they were,
think you're smart.
yeah, you're not dumb. Why are you acting dumb? You're just being that you're not dumb. You don't want anyone to think you're dumb. And then they said something like, were there cameras and where there's was someone taking pictures with the camera? And the kid was like, I don't remember seeing a camera. I never played the game. I only heard a song about the game. And they were like, there was a camera. Was there flashes going off? And the kid's like, I don't know anything about a camera. And they're like, oh, maybe the camera was toy. It was a toy camera, right? And the kid's like, okay, maybe. They just kept pushing and pushing. He had no idea what was going on. I don't know where they came up with that idea, but he said that he had heard a song. So I'm going to guess back in this time period, there was some kind of song. I don't know where they got naked from, but you know how kids
Um,
don't hear things right.
the was kind of a like it was kind of a song, and I'm not going to remember exactly how it goes, but it was kind of a song like I'm rubber, you're glue, that sort of type. It was
Like
one
a
of those
nursery
sings,
rhyme
right?
kind
Like it was a sing-songy where it ended with naked movie star, you're a naked movie star or something, but it was supposed to be like embarrassed, like slightly naughty, something kids that age would think was super naughty. And it was really nothing. It was
well, it's
sort of
like liar, liar, pants on fire,
it
hanging
was
on a
kind of like
telephone
that.
wire.
Yeah.
So
And so this is interestingly this song in this whole and I'm looking, I have a memory of a sieve. Uh um they bring in exactly. We're gonna need a lot of that.
McMartin Daycare, take two.
What they did was repeatedly question them, which we know from watching uh interrogation tapes of police. You can make anybody admit anything eventually if you wear them down enough. And children are particularly susceptible to this. And they were actually sort of rewarded for the appropriate response. So they were definitely being led. I did also hear that they did also introduce hypnosis to some of the children too.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Uh, so we start with the song, and then we go to what did the documentary or your research find that they also admitted to?
They were sacrificing animals to Satan, and one of them said they killed a horse in front of all of them and said, if you tell anyone, this is what we're going to do to your parents. And the people interviewing them were like, where was this horse? Because the daycare was like right in the main area. It's like they slaughtered a horse and nobody knew about this, but it was like all kinds of like guinea pigs and rabbits, right there in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
So like a
And then,
horse.
right, and then there was also the tunnels that they
Oh,
were led through. Um,
supposedly, yeah, there was supposed to be a whole tunnel system underneath the daycare. They would take them out into the tunnel, and then they would put them on some kind of. They would come out another place in town. They'd put them on some kind of buses and just like bust them around the city to prostitute them out. But of course, no one noticed this was happening.
well, and also I heard one of the kids was saying that they flew to like Europe,
Oh yeah, they flew to other countries, and
which
I
is
guess
really interesting to me because a lot of these kids, it was like a half day preschool.
somehow they made it back in time to get picked up.
So, I mean, when kids start telling you this stuff, and I mean, tunnels, that seems like right away the police could go in and look for tunnels, right? Couldn't you rule that out right away? No, that didn't really happen either. Um, so things get worse and worse. These poor teachers, and there was the family members, and then there were two other teachers who were just working there. They all got arrested. And they were all held for a long time because this trial went on and on.
Oh, it was the most expensive taxpayer dollars ever spent on a trial in history. It was like $15 million at the time. So you can imagine what that would cost nowadays. But yeah,
Right.
the only man in the situation, which was the son, that woman's son, I think
Right,
he
Becky.
was
Yep.
in his late 20s or something like that. He was held for 5 years while they were going through the trial. And I know his mom and his sister, they weren't held as long, but they still were held and they were released, I guess, on bail or something. I don't know, but not him. but they
you
were going to
know,
make an example of the only man in the whole situation
whereas,
because
well,
people are really freaked out about the idea of that.
right. And then we've already talked about this. We had Michelle Remembers. So now we're really already embracing that you can have these recovered memories. So now these children have, let's be honest, they're having fresh recovered memories.
Yeah, brand new ones they hadn't thought of before.
But so it just goes, I mean, I read something about that they would talk about how they would take trips on a hot air balloon. Where are they hiding? So they've slaughtered a horse that they've hidden. Now they're hiding a hot air balloon. Like, how are they taking off from, like, and why a hot air balloon? I'm very confused. I mean, are they inherently satanic? I mean,
And just jet setting across the country to other, but home in time for the pickup line.
right, exactly. Well, and like, the Wizard of Oz has that whole I remember even as a small child, by the way, thinking to myself, because I was watching this from a different, obviously we were looking at it from different eyes than the kids who originally saw the movie, but I remember thinking, even at like 8, thinking hot air balloon seems like a really ineffectual way to travel if they're taking Dorothy home. Like, I just couldn't really wrap my mind around how this was going to get her back to Kansas. But anyway, but who knows? Apparently, Satan can do what he will, even with the
He
hot
can
air.
move the wind, I guess.
I guess, because I mean, and obviously, Satan has a Concorde. Because if you're going that fast,
Got to be a private jet. And right there in the middle of like, what city did you say it was? I know it's California.
oh, Manhattan Beach, duh. But
So it was in California. And
yeah,
yet they're hot air ballooning all over California, and no one noticed.
no, no one saw this, but they were believed. I mean, this was put down as fact. This trial goes on and on. Everything ends up being proven. I know it's shocking because all this seems really like valid evidence, but yeah, it's all proven not to be true.
Well, I
Right down.
know the first kid, the first little boy, well, the documentary I watched, even his accusation was not sexual. He literally told his mom his bum hurt. How many kids have a sore ass? I mean, I'm sorry. When you're a little kid, sometimes your bum hurts. And they took that and just destroyed all of these people's lives. And I'm like, oh my God, maybe he's
Well,
dehydrated. Did you think of that?
or maybe does not use the toilet tissue
Maybe he doesn't
well
wipe
enough.
very good. Use some
But
baby wipes or something. I mean, he was little. What was he, 5 or something?
I think he was even littler than that, honestly. So, because when I'm pretty sure when she dropped him off and just left him on the sidewalk, which was not an issue, that's not an issue that he could just wander into the road and hopefully the daycare will take him. Uh, he was only like 2.5.
Oh my God.
So she left like a 2.5-year-old out there not knowing if they were really gonna like take him in. So that is disturbing. But then, and we're certainly not saying that anybody who has mental health problems, but this was hidden in the trial that she was eventually diagnosed with a pretty severe mental health issue. Um,
I wonder if she had like that Mouchism by proxy or something for her to like, put that child in such a
well, it was
mental anguish, plus physical. I'm sure he had to go and have, be checked out by a doctor.
100%. And he also, well, and she actually, I think, I want to say it was schizophrenia that she ended up being diagnosed with, which would make sense to go to all these crazy, because
Yeah.
she was a really big one in coming up with some of these crazy ideas that then other parents were following along with, which I, you would be terrified for your child, no doubt. You'd be terrified something happened. But I would like to believe that if my daughter came home and was like, well, they slaughtered a horse today, I would think to myself, I think that's provable. I think we can find out more. If I don't immediately think this is fantasy, weird fantasy, but fantasy, I'm pretty sure I can prove this. Like,
Well,
it's
plus,
not
I'm sure some of the parents heard them playing and singing that little silly song. And
100%.
then they have to be like, "Oh, it means something," when it's just a silly song, you know.
Well, here I have one for you that we I don't know how our whole school system didn't go down because we had one when we were young that we said, see if you remember this one. You probably don't. Uh, Jane and Tarzan flying through the air. Tarzan loses underwear. Tarzan saying, "Me no care. I like to be like it better bear."
I
Jane
never heard
flying,
that one.
and then it just goes through all of them, like Jane flying through the air, right? And so it's like we would say that and think we were being so naughty. Like, you know what I mean? Because you're little and you're like, oh, Tarzan's bear. And
Ooh,
it's
me
like,
naked. We
yeah,
just did Miss
exactly.
Mary Mac Mac Mac, all dressed in black, black, black. And then what was another one? We would do the hopscotch one, like how many kisses, or not the jump rope one, how many kisses
Uh-huh.
you get. Ooh.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I was really good at jump roping. Double
that's
dutch. I was
that,
double dutch.
that's funny. Well, again, this is just like they took that one rhyme. Well, they took this woman's word for it, which I
Yep.
mean, I'm glad they did. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally glad that they took this seriously.
But they needed to investigate first instead of involving the entire community and slandering all these people. They needed evidence. They had
Right.
one woman's account of a small child, and the whole way of her even getting into the daycare was fishy to
And they
start with.
never brought that up in trial. They actually never brought up her diagnosis in trial, and she was self-medicating with alcohol. So she had a lot of things going on that never made it in. And I don't really understand what the Bucky family, their like what was their attorney doing, because it seems like again this is stuff, I mean, I mean, they did eventually get off, but my gosh, all the years they lost their careers. I mean, that was an established, well thought of daycare that every, and it's gone. Like, how did they move on? And
Plus, he
the
lost his, late 20s, early 30s. That whole time frame was just
Mhm.
from him and putting him in jail as a child abuser. And everybody knows what happens to people that get put in jail for that. You're not treated real good for obvious
Right.
reasons.
So you've damaged these teachers, you have damaged the children. I mean, you have essentially abused the children now by
Yeah.
doing these weird puppets and having them. And I saw or I read something that some of them still believe some of the abuse was true because
Mhm.
it has been so ingrained in by what they were repeating over and over. Again, none of this was ever proved. And in fact, years and years later, they finally decided to look for the tunnels. I mean, again, that's one that you could go for right away. What they found was a foundation of an old building that had been there once and some like ductwork type stuff.
Yeah, they had long been filled in. I mean, there was
Mhm.
nothing there. But it's like not even half the kids still claim that they've got these memories because they were implanted in their head. So yeah, they're memories, but they're not memories of actual accounts. And then you've got most, I'd say 75% are coming back as adults saying, didn't happen.
Right,
I have no
right.
memory. There's nothing physical. It never happened. That
Well,
was told to me by my mom.
and then the fact that it went right to this is satanical. Is that a word?
Yeah,
Satanic.
the tunnels, there were supposed to be pentagrams and bones and all kinds of satanic stuff down there. And
And weren't they supposed to, the teachers be like putting on masks and hooded robes? And it was all this big,
I think there was like dead babies or something. They were sacrificing not only
well,
animals, but I don't know where they got the children from that were sacrificed, but
it goes back to Michelle Remembers. They couldn't
yeah.
track down where there were any missing babies or whatever. And you
Weren't
know,
they
and
flushing something down the toilet or saying they were flushing
I thought they were flushing the children down the toilet, and that's how they
flushing
got the
body parts
tunnels.
down the down the toilet?
It might have been the body parts. Maybe it wasn't the whole child that was being, but at this point, I
Flushing
don't know.
babies down the toilet
I
every
mean,
Tuesday at snack time. You eat your raisins and your little orange slices, and then we're gonna flush the baby down the toilet.
the toilet and then get on your nap
Yeah,
mat.
take a
And
nap. We'll read you a
I mean,
bedtime story.
but yeah, and the fact that yeah, this cost California a fortune. A fortune.
Oh,
Um,
didn't other daycares get affected by this too?
yes.
That was
Yes,
like
it
seven total.
hmm You know full well that daycares were like, nope, not going, no one was going into that business after this mess. I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be like,
No, they were all hit with accusations. It was
mhm.
just,
And again, it's Satan. It's always Satan. Like everything is done for Satan,
well, if there's one
apparently.
tunnel, they're probably all connected to all the daycares. That's what it was. They would share the children with Satan.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, Satan, and
He
let's
got,
face it, I mean, Satan was super busy at
he
this
got
time period. I mean, the 70s and 80s were hopping for Satan. I mean,
it was his peak.
he had to like go on vacation for like the aughts
Yeah.
because it was just
In the
so
40s, he
much.
left us to ourselves.
He was
We're
like, I'm
just as bad.
exhausted. I'm exhausted. No more dead babies.
He's
I've
like,
had
you guys
too.
do it yourself.
And again, it feels weird to laugh about dead babies. That's horrible. But this is so ridiculous. You can't even like what what were parents manifesting in the 70s and 80s naturally that like they believe this stuff? I mean, I was as part of my research, I was reading about Geraldo Rivera, who, we tend to think of Geraldo Rivera as a punchline, but he had won like a Peabody like before this. So he was like considered a like hard cutting, journalist.
Oh,
And
he
he
was
did
like on the scene, military stuff. I mean, he would go into like war zones and stuff. So he was a respected news person. And then he got his show, and it's just like,
well,
hello,
and he
Jerry Springer.
right, right. Well, and then he did that whole satanic panic. I mean, he was hard into this. I mean, truthfully, he had to have kind of believed it because he was sort of like really into it. And he had to come out later and make a, retraction that, okay, this wasn't apparently true. Again, you're a hard cutting journalist. Why aren't you like researching or following up on any of these stories? But again, why weren't the police? I mean, a lot of this stuff was so completely provable. And they were just like, well, believe the children. And that was actually where the catchphrase believe the children. Now, I love that in the 70s and 80s, you had the paradox of believe the children, but also I'll give you something to cry about, or, like, we don't know where you are. You're just running around on the street. What was all this? Like,
I think it was a time when society was finally realizing, you know what? Nobody's watching these kids. And the ones that are kind of watched, they're getting the shit beat out of them at the house because Child Protective Services didn't do much back then. I mean, it had to be extreme. And when by the time it was that extreme, it was on Geraldo. So
right, right. Well, and I think too that it was like some guilt over the first generation that mothers weren't home. And I think that was sort of the follow, not saying like, oh, when I am home, I should probably do more with my children. No, I'm not home. I feel guilty. And look, Satan got them. Like, no, why don't you actually like come home from work, even though you're exhausted, and help them do their homework and feel a little bit better about? But no, it's just easier to be like, well, nothing I could do because Satan got them.
Yeah, it's like you leave them alone. They get into music. Some of them got into drugs. A lot of them, hooked up with their friends, and you're going to blame Satan because you gave them nothing else to do because they were latchkey kids. They were just by themselves. I remember wearing a key around my neck when I left elementary school and walked with my brother back to our motel that we lived in for a while. There was nobody home. I had a key on a piece of yarn around my neck and my shirt.
It's just,
So it's
and
like,
and the thing is, I'm not putting blame on the parents either because you needed that double income. You needed,
you had to work, and single moms especially. I mean, they had no choice. They had to work like two jobs. So it's like you hoped for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Did the best you could, basically, but
But
still.
it is interesting rather than just say, "Hey, I did the best I could. I'm trying
Satan,
here." Satan,
Satan.
gotta blame Satan
I
because
did everything I could. I'm fine, but Satan. I could not compete with Satan.
who can? I
No,
say that on a daily basis. I
can't
can't
compete
compete
with
with
Satan. Not today, Satan.
Satan.
Maybe on Thursday, not today.
there's there's our title for something. I can't compete with Satan. Um, another shirt. Another shirt.
Can't
You can
compete with
play with
Satan.
demons, but you can't play with matches, and you can't compete with Satan.
Can't compete with Satan.
These things just write themselves.
They do. I need to get on the ball and start making more.
Yeah, because we don't have you busy enough.
Mm. Nope.
So, so yeah, so that's the McMartin daycare. Does anybody remember this when it was happening? Did anybody watch this on the news? I will say this, I don't actually remember a lot of this in my childhood. Like I don't remember seeing anything about it, and I don't certainly don't remember my parents talking about it, but truth be told, we were in Maine. California seemed like, an exotic locale, I'm sure. So my parents were like, oh, that's far away. Little did they know there were tunnels everywhere. I could have been whisked away to California at lunch.
We had just settled in North Carolina, and I wasn't supposed to watch the news, so I didn't hear about it. But I did hear whispers about how there was a lot of bad stuff going on at daycares, but I never heard the Satan part because I wasn't, supposed to hear that.
Yeah, I never heard. I don't really think I heard any of this. And I mean, I was at an age, I mean, 1983, I was 13. So you would think I might have heard about it, but then again, I was 13. So I was more concerned with being a freshman in high school or whatever we were.
Plus, with this, the if I'm not mistaken, the documentary said the first of the court cases there was like 120 uh, charges against them, and they had a hung jury. So they went to try again. This time they went ahead and were not going to charge the mom and the sister. They were just going to charge the guy, and they lowered it to like 80 something counts, and then he was found not guilty. So. But it was like they were really
Insane.
trying. They had to try
It's,
it twice.
it's insane. It's so insane. I
I
don't
did
know.
look up trying to find out where they were. I know they left the area, obviously. They had no life left because there was people that were um, supportive of them, but then you had more people on the outside that were like, "Mm-mm, you guys are terrible child abusers." So they did move to other areas in California. They were still in California. Him and I guess I know he's still alive. I don't know about the sister. I'm sure the mom is not because she was quite old, but I don't know
It's,
what he ended up doing after that. Hiding, I would
I was going to say,
imagine.
nothing with children.
No.
Oh my gosh. And actually, by all accounts, he had not really wanted to even work at the daycare, but it was like a family thing. So it was kind of like, okay, well, it's an easy job. And it turned out he was actually really good at it. So they took someone who probably did discover a life, path. And no, because he was sacrificing horses and flying hot air balloons. And
Flushing babies down the toilet.
it's so, yes, that is the McMartin preschool Fiasco, as we're calling Satanic Fiasco.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you guys heard anything about that. And if you did, what did you hear about it? Because like I said, I didn't hear about it because I was 12 at the time because I didn't.
Well, and do we have any California folks who
Yeah, we've
actually,
got some California people.
yeah, I'd like to hear if you remember specifically because I'm sure it was even huger, or even huger. Is that right? Even bigger?
I was gonna say, is huger a word?
More huge,
Humongous.
humongous. It was
I don't.
probably
It
humongous
was
back.
humongous. It was huge. I don't know. I was just curious. It might be a word. I don't know. You're the linguist, not me.
Not a very good one, clearly. Um, but yeah, it'd be interesting to hear if you have any memories of this. And were there any rumors in your town that things were
With
going on?
daycares, even. Yeah, because
Yeah.
all seven of those daycares, I believe, shut down that were also accused of not so much, well, some with the abuse, but it was mostly the satanic sacrificial abuse that they were really pushing because there was no
Hmm.
evidence of anything else, but they were claiming there was like pentagrams drawn everywhere. And what was
Right.
crazy is there was something that they sent home from the parents for the parents, and it was some kind of like drawing or something they did, and it was a star. It was just a star, but they were, I guess one of the kids had circled the star so it looked like a pentagram. It was just a star. Kids color stars and moons and suns a lot, and sometimes they put circles around stuff, but they were saying they are teaching them to draw pentagram.
Oh
That
my
is crazy.
gosh. Yeah, yeah, it's really amazing how, and again, the whole concept of we're not just going to address this one child and see where we go from here. No, we're going to send home a letter with really no preamble, like nothing. Like suddenly you get this letter, of course you're freaking out. And then your kid is also left the preschool, is now like in grade school, and you're getting a letter. I mean, it was so colossally terribly handled. I mean,
You
you could,
have to wonder if there wasn't some bad blood from whatever person in authority got this information and was trying to purposely stir up something. You have to wonder, even though it sounds conspiratorial, it's not any worse than flushing babies down the toilet. So you
right.
got
I
to
mean,
wonder, was there something they didn't? Did their kid not get in the daycare and they wanted to punish them? It's like, what caused them to just
yeah,
go like nuclear on the whole thing? It's like
it was, it's
something
wild. It
odd.
is wild. All right. So that's kind of, we kind of summed this one up. I expected this one to go pretty long because it's so bizarre, but I guess it's a pretty concise story. We know it was the biggest trial of, or the most expensive trial, went on forever. Uh, and we know it was all debunked. Every bit of it was, it was debunked. So other than now, these kids are somewhere now adults thinking that horrible things happened to them potentially, which is abuse.
It is.
That's the abuse of this story. It had nothing to do with Satan. And some of those people were probably good intentioned people, and
Mhm.
it still ended up being abuse. But anyway, all right. Well, you know what to do, everyone. Subscribe. You need to
Like us, like
hit
us.
that, hit the bell notification so you don't miss us.
Do you like us? Show it. Show it.
And also, we're not going to let up on Substack because we want to get enough people over there so we can start doing the book club and
We
so
want
we
to go
can
live.
the live. All right. Do all that good stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and send us your stories. We are still looking. Any weird story you have, any, hey, we'll take even like random memories. Obviously, random memories were a thing for our childhood. So, hey, if you have something that you think you remember, throw it out there. We'll help you out.
Or
Um,
email us stuff that you thought was true back then.
yes, I'd
Doesn't
love to
matter.
hear that.
Email us. It'll be the email will be in the comments. So just
Yes, it's
tell us.
genhexmedia70@gmail.com, but it will be down below. All right. And next week, we are going to talk about, we decided we'd mix it up a little bit. We're going to talk about The Weird and Bizarre World of Sid and Marty Krofft. I don't know if you remember these folks, but they created children's shows that actually somehow did not get into the Satanic Panic as hardcore as, say, the Smurfs, but they
They
should
probably
have.
should have, but they
They
did
were
not.
pretty bizarre. So we'll see if you remember H&R Puffin stuff. If you remember Land of the Lost,
Land
you
of the
want to come
Lord.
join us because we are going to go into what a bizarre fever dream these things were. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. McMartin, cut. No.